everyone, my name is Margaret Burgess and I'm with Atlanta Legal Aid in the Decatur office. I am actually serving with a project that works not only in Decatur and DeKalb County, but also the other 4 counties that Atlanta Legal Aid serves. So that includes DeKalb, Gwinnett, Fulton, Clayton, and Cobb County. So I'll describe a little bit about the work that I'm focusing on in our Decatur office that touches those other counties as well. And we have a whole unit dedicated here at our Decatur office called the Disability Integration Project that I'm not technically a part of, but I do work with closely. Their whole mandate is to try to help make sure that people with disabilities, to the extent that they're able, can live in and among us in the community and not be institutionalized. They're constantly trying to help people connect with housing in the community. And if we really want people in our community with disabilities to be able to not be in institutions and to actually live in and among us and with us as neighbors, we have to make accommodations, and we have to make sure that we check ourselves with our biases and our discrimination. That's what it means to be neighbors. You don't have everyone perfect next to you. You have to deal with everyone as they come. Under the Fair Housing Act, a disability includes people who have had they've recovered or have substance abuse in their past. So that's included within disability. So sometimes people with these types of disabilities have a harder time getting into housing, or may even be kicked out of housing unlawfully for things that that maybe are related to their disability and that don't otherwise or shouldn't otherwise violate the lease. So it gets a little squishier and harder to define exactly what that looks like on a case. It's a kind of a case-by-case basis. But one case that came up was a woman who has schizophrenia, and she is living in an apartment complex, and things seem to be going fine. She's got a voucher that helps to make sure that her rent payments are paid on time, and so she's been paying rent on time, and all of a sudden her lease comes up for renewal, and the landlord says, no, we're not renewing your lease. And generally, landlords in Georgia are allowed to do that. They don't have to unless you get subsidized rent, which we can talk about at another point. But a private landlord in Georgia really isn't required to give a reason, and they can just not renew your lease if they want to. But what made this particular situation fishy and problematic was when the caseworker for this particular individual went and talked to the leasing office and said, "Why, what's the problem here? Why aren't you renewing this woman's lease?" They said things like, "Well, we just, she makes us uncomfortable, and she's scary," and things like those kinds of words that essentially there was no particular actions or anything that she had done to really violate the lease, but it was words that really set off everyone's spidey senses about this sounds like this is disability discrimination. They just don't want someone with schizophrenia living in this apartment complex. So I think that we at Legal Aid want to be responsive to the needs that are actually in the community. And so a lot of what I've talked about today is important to me, and I hope also important to the community, because I feel like fair housing enforcement can sometimes feel pretty removed from what people are actually suffering from. People can maybe attend trainings or lectures on the Fair Housing Act, and it kind of sounds pie in the sky, like, oh, you can't discriminate against someone because of their race. Well, what does that really look like in today's world for renters? And so that's where Legal Aid is trying to be responsive, whether in our home defense program or in our housing rental programs that we work with people on. We're trying to be responsive to the needs that are coming up. And I'll say generally, but beyond just housing issues, Legal Aid deals with all kinds of problems and helps people with all kinds of problems. In our general law unit, we help with domestic issues, so things along child support, divorce, domestic violence, and helping people with sometimes employment issues or consumer issues that might come up. A lot of the work we do is housing, but it's not the only thing. So people should keep us in mind when they are dealing with those other issues as well.